Haunting passengers. I had 10% of battery left. I turned off my phone to save the remaining energy. Maybe it will be necessary. The route will be long, from the bus to the subway, and then a few more stops on a minibus. I went to the window. Gloomy autumn, a bridge, a shopping mall, an old theater. My eyes had long since grown tired of this view. What about the other passengers? Some are asleep in their seats, others are looking at their phones, and sitting, standing, head down, flicking web tapes, watching videos. The bus leaned to the side on a turn. People gripped the handrails tighter, without taking their eyes off the screens. Headphones shielded them from external sounds. Watching something or listening to music while traveling is a good way to relax and take a break from everyday worries. Mobile devices have made travel time more interesting. There's no need to judge anyone for it, but still, it felt nice to be the only one who emerged into reality. I stood and looked at everyone from the side. A tall guy in a hoodie, bent over a glowing screen like a lamppost, a sleeping girl with expensive noise-canceling headphones, a teenager typing something and recording voice messages. None of them were really here. The thought made me feel strange. The bus was approaching a stop. Some woman slipped in the side and knocked the backpack off my shoulder. The people began to push each other, and when the doors opened, the bus was half empty. I started looking for a free seat. Everyone quickly settled down, and there was only one place left, next to the sleeping girl in the headphones. I wanted to sit there, but a strange man who walked into the closing doors distracted my attention. He looked as if he had been run over by a car. The decent suit was dirty. The last button on the jacket dangled on the thread. The hole in the shoulder. The shirt had black lines like tire marks. The man's gray hair was in the mud. His temples were covered with blood, but he smiled. Oddly enough, no one even glanced at him. Only I stared in disbelief. What misfortune has befallen him? He looked at me as if I were the only one who had noticed, looked up and nodded as if he knew me. The strange passenger made his way through the people, brushing his dirty jacket against them. They are sitting in their phones and they can't see or hear anything. Yes, I would have noticed someone like him immediately. Although, I don't know how many strange things slip away from my eyes when I'm head deep on the internet. The man turned his back to me, and there were tire marks on the back of his jacket. His head was injured. Was this some kind of masquerade? If a car had run over him, he wouldn't likely be able to walk. His arms and legs were bent strangely, as if broken. Or maybe it just seemed that way because his suit was crumpled. He went to the spot I had marked and sat down next to a sleeping girl. Now this dirty person was within view of the standing passengers, but they still paid no attention. No one examined the details. The bus turned, and the sleeping girl's head fell onto the strange man's shoulder. She moved in her sleep, making herself comfortable. For some reason, I felt uneasy, as if it were my cheek resting on his shoulder. The man ran his fingers through his dirty hair, then looked at me again. Smiling wider, he revealed red gums. His front teeth were broken and beaten. The strange passenger nodded, smiled, and whispered in an obscure language, as if he was speaking backwards, and his voice crept through my skin. "Here's my stop. Time to get off." I rushed to the metro, not seeing what happened next, only imagining the girl waking up and screaming in fear. As I descended into the subway, I thought about that man. Maybe he was entertaining himself this way? Walking around dressed like that, waiting for someone to notice him. A crazy artist trying to show society what it has become, detached from reality, wandering all day like a ghost. Or was he actually a ghost? In times like these, when no one cares about anyone else, why do the fugitives from the underworld hide? They could walk among us, and no one would look. And here I am in the crowd. yet somehow alone. People flow through the passage like a stream, brushing against each other's shoulders, but each is in their own world. Nobody cares about anyone else. We move together, not thinking about each other. Each of us is wrapped up in our own thoughts. In other circumstances, I would have felt uncomfortable if strangers were invading my personal space and brushing against me. But now, it feels normal. We will pour out of the metro, the flow breaking into many individual lives, each going their separate way. It's interesting. My mind shifted to thoughts on the peculiarities of collective behavior, and I forgot about the man I had seen on the bus. In the train car, I was out of luck again. All the seats were taken. From fatigue, I leaned on the handrail, and everyone was lost in their phones. One girl with an e-reader, an old man with a paper book. No one was looking at anyone else. I too was like a ghost to these people. The train glided along well-worn tracks. Doors opened and closed, and with the next wave of passengers, another figure squeezed into the car. It was not clear what age he was. His face was swollen, gray and wet. This man as if he had come out of the swamp. Clothes are wet. The eyes were almost falling out of the swollen eyelids. The skin on the palms shrunk. Water dripped from him, leaving a trail, but no one looked at him. The train filled with the smell of dampness and aquatic plants. Those who stood close to the man seemed to have noticed it, but only squinted, and zero attention to the source. A drowned man on the subway. In that state, he could have been floating in some river, belly up and bloated, rather than walking among the living. What day is it today? No, still a long way to that holiday. And September isn't even over yet. If this was makeup, why make it so disgusting? And the stench filled the entire train. The bloated man noticed my curiosity. He opened his mouth and a bubble inflated between his lips, popping with a sickening sound. He said something that was not clear. The man started pushing people and approached me. They only frowned, but no one voiced their complaints. Why wouldn't anyone look at him? He should have drawn attention. I was scared and sidestepped into another part of the train, bumping into someone's shoulder, like hitting an old carpet. A cloud of dust flew in my face. "Sorry," I muttered before seeing who I had bumped into. "Jump into the night sky," someone whispered slowly and indistinctly into my ear. I held my hand over my face and looked at my fingers. It was not dust, but soot. There stood beside me a man covered with terrible burns, blind, toothless, in places roasted to the crust, in places burned to black ashes. On the other side, a drowned man came to me. Who are these demons? Why are they coming for me? I nearly screamed, but suddenly a way out appeared before me. The doors slid open, and no matter what the station was, the only thing that mattered was escaping. A wave of uncontrollable fear drove me out of the metro. Up on the street, I felt instantly calmer. The cool autumn air cleared my mind and chased away the panic. The swampy stench and burnt smell were replaced by the scent of fallen leaves. Even city air seemed pure after the subway. It had been washed by rain while I was underground. It's a long walk home, and the minibuses will stop running soon. But I can make it if I take the tram to the bus station. And if something happens, I'll have a quick escape to the street. I already understood that this evening was special. Today, all the residents of hell had come up to roam the surface. I should carry a portable charger and use my phone like everyone else. Then I wouldn't have these problems. The tram rang, I jumped into the open door and looked around. Were there any strange passengers? There were plenty. An old woman with cavernous holes the size of rat nests darkening her forehead, cheek, and neck. It seems that a gray tail has been spotted in the hole. And Grandma? Nothing. She stands for herself and holds a bag. To my left, a barefoot girl in pajamas hugged herself, blue from the cold, frost on her lips, her eyes sharp as if scheming something. The bald man next to me looks like a human being, but on his neck is lightning, sewn into the skin. It's like he's wearing a different appearance. When I saw them, I wanted to jump off the tram immediately, but I was late. The doors closed and we moved. The bald man with the zipper on his neck turned to me and whispered, "Put your head in the chandelier." He didn't mumble. His words were clear but made no sense. The man looked at me expectantly, waiting for an answer. My hands were sweaty but still cold. I went forward to another exit, and on the way touched a woman's elbow and said, "Excuse me, could you move for a second?" Without looking at me, she snapped back, "Stop pushing!" She was too busy texting. The strange people stared at me as I tried to ignore them, pretending to be like everyone else. I took out my phone, staring into its black screen, and saw my frightened face. Finally, the next stop. I wanted to jump out, but it was impossible. An impossibly large man squeezed into the tram, resembling a hippo in his bulk, with thick layers of fatty flesh. His broad cheeks and thick lips quivered from the tram's shake, while his tiny eyes, like beads in a sea of fat, were fixed solely on me. "Take the cockroach out of your brain," he said. His voice was deep and loud, but no one in the tram seemed to hear him. I went back, dodging the strange people who reached their hands toward me. The bald man's skin hung from his fingertips like gloves too big. The old woman with rat tunnels winked at me. The frostbitten girl smiled. The enormous man advanced, shoving passengers aside. They obediently clung to the seats without complaining. He moved slowly and clumsily, as if his body was too heavy for such movements. The tram's bell rang, and we stopped. A few people got off with me, indifferent, tired faces that didn't see the ones walking among us. I envied them. I wanted to return to the familiar comfort of routine, where everything around was mundane and unremarkable, and all life was contained in a phone. How to tune into that wavelength? Just a couple more stops to the bus station, and there on the 122 Saints route, and go home. I turned on the phone. Charging is 7%. Earbuds in, music at full blast, and I moved along with the crowd toward the station, trying to see no one, notice no one. Finally, I found it. My bus waited with an open door, as if it had been waiting just for me. I took a single seat at the back, hoping no one would try to hand me fare money, put the hood on the eyes, and hugged my backpack. We started moving. Someone loomed over me almost immediately. I pretended to hear nothing, listening to the music. The stench was unbearable, as if something had rotted, a mix of rotten fish and eggs. It was enough to poison you on smell alone. Someone was standing above me. Something is being said to me. A sharp voice cuts through the music. I can't lift my head and look. The song stopped in the middle. The phone was completely dead, and my breathing grew too loud and anxious, though I continued pretending to listen to music. Someone took the hood off me and ripped the earphone out of my ear. "Find your lung and fry it to a crisp." The voice rang in my head. I couldn't hide any longer and looked up. There was a woman standing next to me. She was so tall, she had to fold almost in half to reach my face. Her cheeks, instead of a healthy blush, were covered with blue spots, and her mouth was glistening with gold-capped teeth. I slid down to the floor, crawled between the rows, got up, and shouted to the driver, "Stop!" Then I turned to the passengers and yelled, "People, wake up! Don't you see who's riding with you?" A strange woman laughed, tapping her gilded teeth. The passengers stopped noticing me. The denizens of hell had pulled me into their reality. What did they want from me? Only the driver listened to me. He stopped the minibus, and I tumbled out onto the street. I ran across the intersection against the red light in frantic despair. I wanted to grab people by their jackets, rip their phones from their hands, and ask them to notice me. But damn them. Let them go where they were headed. I just wanted to get home as fast as possible. It was dark. There were pools under their feet, and the shoes were wet. I wanted to be in my kitchen, plug my phone in to charge, then take a shower and crawl under the blanket, erase this day. Concrete steps, an empty platform. The train doors slammed shut behind me, nearly pinching my backpack. Both on the right and left are empty cars. Cracked paint, worn handles, the smells of tobacco and dampness. Not a single person. I was alone in the entire train. I decided to stay in the vestibule. In that small space, I felt calmer. It was easier to keep an eye on the doors and know in advance which way to run. But someone suddenly appeared beside me, just out of thin air. Someone who looked like a person, tall and thin, with long limbs and sharp claws. His face, neck, and hands were covered in yellow scales that glistened in the light. He had 2 sharp lines on his head, resembling lizard spines. His round yellow eyes with vertical pupils stared right into my forehead. It seemed he could see my thoughts. "Put your scariest day in your pocket," he hissed. His voice tickled my ears. The demon wore an old-fashioned brown suit and a checkered shirt. He leaned on a carved cane with a round handle. This passenger was either trying to resemble a human or was one long ago. He exhaled a sharp, sour smell into my face, reminiscent of smoke from burnt matches. I was tired of being afraid, tired of being surprised. Why were they bothering me with this creepy nonsense? What did they want from me? They looked terrible, like the characters of nightmares, and spoke things that were impossible to comprehend. I stared into the yellow eyes of the demonic creature, and an idea struck me: to respond in kind. I needed some nonsensical call to action, something obviously impossible. "Drink the sunset from the tea box," I timidly said. The spikes on the yellow man's head stood up. He smiled, nodded, and quickly lost interest in me, stepping into the empty carriage. It worked. It was as if we exchanged passwords. So that's what they needed, to respond with impossible tasks. I felt relieved. Now I knew how to scare off demons, look behind the sun, make the sea saltier, drown in the night sky, and I could come up with as many of these tasks as I wanted. All my thoughts consisted of them. Wait, why was that? Having unleashed this stream of nonsense, I couldn't stop. My brain was generating meaningless phrases on its own. Tie the wind in a knot. Turn the yellow leaves backward. I should have thought about which station to get off at, but I couldn't. Why should I even get off at a station? Where was I going? Why did I get on the train? Trains don't run to my house. The wheels rattled, and darkness lay outside the windows. And where was this night taking me? I needed to go back home. But where was my home? I was horrified that I couldn't remember. Where was my home? I squeezed my temples with my palms. This shouldn't be happening. No matter how much I wandered through the tunnels of memory, I couldn't recall my address or my own name. My head was full of garbage. What had they done to me? At first, their language sounded indistinct. Then I began to understand, and now I was thinking like they did. I had become one of them. I was sucked into a meaningless world where all life was a journey. Now I'm a strange person too, destined to wander from one mode of transport to another, speaking nonsense to anyone who pays attention to me, because I simply couldn't say anything else. Any cry for help would turn into a stream of absurdity. What will happen to me now? The terrifying unknown, emptiness. Outside, the darkness, the glass like a mirror. My reflection crossed out by a faded stencil inscription: "Do not lean." What an unpleasant and unfamiliar face. Is this me? Was this my appearance? I don't remember. Darkness and the clatter of wheels. My journey will never end. My home is nowhere.